pressing. It's the act of putting aggressive pressure on your opponents as soon as they get the ball. But here's what most players don't understand. Pressing isn't just running around like a headless chicken. It's a strategic weapon that can either completely suffocate an opponent or backfire spectacularly if you don't know what you're doing. The high press. This is where your team aggressively presses the opponent in their own half of the pitch. You're targeting their goalkeeper, their defenders, anyone who touches the ball early. Why is this so aggressive? Because you want to stop the attack before it even starts. Teams like Liverpool and Manchester City are absolute masters at this. They swarm the ball carrier immediately, giving them zero time to think. Here's the key. A high press only works if your team is organized and your pressing triggers are synchronized. The mistake most teams make is having players pressing at different times. One guy presses the goalkeeper while his teammate is watching from 20 yards away. That's not pressing. That's just chaos. You need your entire team to press together in a coordinated unit. The moment the ball is lost, boom, immediately 3 or 4 players close in. But let's be brutal here. The risk of a high press is massive. If your press gets broken and the opponent plays one clean pass through your lines, you've just created a highway. There's nothing between them and your goalkeeper. That's why teams using high press need world-class fitness and concentration. One mistake, and you're getting absolutely punished. You've got to commit fully or don't press at all. The mid-block press. This is where your defensive line sits in the midfield area, creating a balance between attacking and defending. Think of it as the sweet spot. You're not aggressively pushing up, but you're not sitting deep either. You're basically saying to the opponent, you can have the ball out wide or deep, but you're not getting through the center. This is the most common pressing style in modern football because it's practical and effective. Teams like Arsenal use this beautifully. They sit in the middle of the pitch, compressing space in dangerous areas while keeping their defensive shape intact. The benefit here is obvious. You're preventing the opponent from running at your defense while still being organized enough to defend. The secret with mid-block pressing is positioning. Your defensive midfielders need to understand when to press and when to drop. Most players mess this up by either pressing too aggressively and leaving gaps, or dropping too deep and allowing dangerous passes between the lines. The key is reading the game. If the opponent's midfielder is on the ball 30 yards from goal with limited options, you can press. If they're starting to create space, or you see dangerous passing lanes opening up, you drop slightly to maintain structure. The low press, also called a low block. Your entire team defends deep, sitting in and around your own penalty area. This isn't the flashy, aggressive way to play, but it's devastatingly effective when used correctly. Teams like Atletico Madrid and Juventus, under certain managers, turn this into an art form. Why would you use this? Simple. Defensive solidity. You're making it nearly impossible for your opponent to break you down because there are so many defenders packed in a small area. Plus, you're creating counterattack opportunities. When you win the ball back, you've got space to run into because the opponent's entire team is pushed forward. The mistake most teams make with low press is becoming too passive. They sit so deep that they're basically inviting shots from distance. You can't just be a punching bag. You need to be organized, aggressive in your challenges when the ball comes to your zone, and ready to transition quickly. When you win the ball in a low block, you've got to be clinical on the counter. That's where you hurt them. The real secret with low block pressing is intensity. Yes, you're sitting deep, but when the opponent enters your territory, you need to be aggressive and decisive. Underdog teams use this constantly against stronger opponents. It's not pretty football, but it works. Gegenpress. This is the counter-pressing, also known as immediate pressing. The moment you lose the ball, you press immediately, not after 3 seconds. Not after you've organized. Right now. You're trying to stop the opponent before they can even start their attack. Teams like RB Leipzig and Klopp's Liverpool are obsessed with this. The idea is simple. Regain the ball in dangerous areas so you don't have to defend for long periods. It's exhausting, but it's incredibly effective when your team has the fitness and mentality for it. Here's why Gegenpress is so dangerous. Defenders and goalkeeper haven't had time to set up. They're caught out of position. One good counterpress, and you're creating a 3v2 or 4v3 in the opponent's half. That's basically a guaranteed chance. The problem? Gegenpress requires insane fitness levels. Your players need to be sprinting constantly, making split-second decisions, and making precise passes under pressure. One lazy press, and the entire system collapses. Most players watch this and think it's just chaos, but it's actually incredibly structured. Every player knows their pressing trigger and who their pressing partner is. The secret to gegenpress is decision-making speed. You need players who can assess the situation in milliseconds and either press aggressively or drop to cover. Too many players hesitate, and that hesitation costs you. The best gegenpress teams have players making decisions before they even realize it. It's almost instinctive. Man-marking press. This is where specific players directly mark specific opponents. Your center back marks their striker. Your fullback marks their winger. You're following them everywhere on the pitch. The advantage is clear. You limit passing options. If you're marking your man tightly, the ball carrier knows they can't just play it to him. This creates pressure up the pitch and forces rushed decisions. But here's where most teams mess this up. Man-marking only works if every single player is doing it. If one guy is pressing his man while another is watching his zone, you've created defensive gaps. Attackers exploit these gaps instantly. You need complete commitment from all 11 players. The risk is real too. If your man makes a clever movement and you lose him for even a second, they've got a free passing lane. Plus, if the opponent's playmaker drops deep into midfield, your defender follows them into midfield, and now you've got structural problems all over the pitch. The secret with man-marking is anticipation. You need to read the game and predict where your man is going before he gets there. If you're always reacting, you're always one step behind. Position yourself between your opponent and the goal. Cut off their preferred receiving areas and force them into uncomfortable positions. Zonal press. Instead of following individual players, you defend specific zones of the pitch. Your left side midfielders defend the left zone. Your center midfielders defend the center. When an opponent enters your zone, you press them. When they leave, you release them to a teammate in the next zone. This is the modern way of defending. It's more flexible, it maintains team shape better, and it's harder for attackers to create numerical advantages through clever movement. Bayern Munich and Manchester City are masters of this. Why is zonal press better than man-marking? Because it's structured. Your defensive line stays compact. Players don't get dragged out of position. If an attacker makes a run into your zone, you're ready for them. If they run out of your zone, your teammate picks them up seamlessly. The mistake most teams make is not pressing aggressively enough within their zone. They sit back passively and let the opponent play. A proper zonal press means as soon as the ball enters your zone, you're pressing immediately. You're not waiting, you're attacking the space. The secret with zonal press is organization and communication. You need clear zone boundaries that every player understands. Your fullbacks need to know exactly where their zone ends and the center back's zone begins. Without this clarity, you've got players leaving gaps or pressing the same player. Here's the thing about all these pressing styles. They're not good or bad, they're just different tools for different situations. High press against a weak passing team? Genius. High press against a team with world-class playmakers? You're asking to get destroyed. Low block against a team that loves counterattacking? Smart. Low block against a possession-based team with clinical finishing? You're going to be under siege. The best teams understand multiple pressing styles and can switch between them, depending on the opponent. They can gegenpress for 20 minutes, then drop into a mid-block when they're tired, then push into a high press when they're chasing the game. But here's the brutal truth. Pressing requires fitness, organization, and mental sharpness. Most teams don't have all three. That's why you see teams that try to press but just end up chasing shadows all game. They're disorganized, they're tired, and their positioning is all over the place. If you want to master pressing, start with one system. Understand the triggers, the positioning, the recovery runs. Practice it until it becomes second nature. Then add another one. Because the truth is, one perfectly executed mid-block press that suffocates your opponent is better than 3 sloppy pressing systems where your team is all over the place.